Turning to some business news now, and major technology firms are facing increased scrutiny in many parts of the world. The legal action against Facebook, just the latest in a string of cases looking at how these digital giants could be abusing their dominant position online. For more, we can speak to our business editor, Stephen Carl. Stephen, let's start with this news in the area of technology regulation. In fact, here in France, where the country's privacy regulator has fined Google and Amazon. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, this news just coming into us in the past hour. The CNIL, which is France's data protection watchdog, fining Google €100 million and Amazon €35 million. And that's for non-respect or for not respecting the laws around cookies, these databases which we're very used to seeing clicking on notifications about on various websites. They're essentially a way of websites tracking what users do while they're browsing the internet. And what the CNIL has said here in France is that both Google and Amazon didn't follow the laws in that, particularly when it comes to automatically downloading those cookies without users' consent, and also not being sufficiently clear when explaining to users that cookies are being used on those websites. Now, it gives the companies 3 months for them to change their positions on this or face, on top of those fines, a further penalty of €100,000 per day. The CNIL says that these changes had an impact on the privacy of users using Google.fr and Amazon.fr, and that's why it's inflicted those changes. It did note the companies did make changes to this policy in September of this year, where they no longer allowed for the automatic download of the cookies, but said that the notifications given to users weren't sufficiently clear.
OK, well, going back to the Facebook case then in the United States, Stephen, it's not the first time the Federal Trade Commission has challenged big tech. What sort of results have they had in the past?
Well, just a bit of background on this case first. The Federal Trade Commission and 48 attorneys general in the United States taking this case against the social media giant over its monopoly position, as they see it in their case, in the social media area, and particularly the Federal Trade Commission looking at the acquisition of WhatsApp and Instagram as ways that the company had unfairly bought out competition rather than seeking to compete fairly with them in markets. Now, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is the US competition watchdog. They have taken many cases against tech companies in recent years, but mostly focusing on the area of consumer protection. If we take a look at some of the recent cases they've taken, last year they had a case against YouTube, and that led to a fine of $170 million, and that was to do with children's privacy and how children's videos are handled on that platform. There was also a fine for Facebook last year on a separate issue, $5 billion, a record for the FTC, and that was in relation to the Cambridge Analytica scandal. If we go back even further, the FTC did actually approve Facebook's purchase of WhatsApp and Instagram in 2012 and 2014, and that goes to the heart of what this most recent case is about. And if we go back even further, the FTC did investigate Google's dominance in the search engine market back in 2013, and that resulted simply in the FTC requiring Google to make some changes to how it operates, but the case had subsequently been criticised for not going further. What's different about the new case that the FTC has launched along with these attorneys general is that it is an action focusing on the monopoly position of Facebook rather than the consumer protection angle, and looking at how it has grown to dominate in this space and stifle competition in the area of social media. It is the first government antitrust action against Facebook in the United States. Facebook has rejected the idea that it acted unfairly in these purchases. It points to the fact that the FTC had approved these acquisitions of WhatsApp and Instagram in the past, and has said that they can't seek to rewrite previous deals that had been agreed. Of course, the situation very different now, though, than back when those deals were agreed. The internet is a very different place, social media is a very different place, and it will now be up to the courts to examine whether or not Facebook did break the rules. Of course, these cases don't get resolved very quickly. We're unlikely to have a final decision on this for years.
And these aren't, Stephen, the only cases big technology companies are facing, are they?
No, and it's not just Facebook either. Google, for example, is facing a case in the Department of Justice announced last month, or announced in October, I should say, in the United States. And that's looking at Google's dominance in the area of search engines. So that's something that we saw the Justice Department in the US accusing Google of essentially foreclosing competition in the area of search engines. Google has argued that case is deeply flawed. There's also a lot of EU cases against big technology companies as well. Google, for example, there are 3 competition cases that the EU has taken against Google. They've resulted in fines of more than 8 billion euros, some of those still under appeal on various aspects of Google's business. There are cases too against Facebook over use of data and how its marketplace operates. There are cases too against Amazon, against Apple over different issues. We know that there's a big effort from regulators to try to rein in the power that these companies have. There's been pressure from politicians as well, but it is something that's quite difficult for regulators to do, and that's why we see these cases taking so long when they are eventually taken.
Okay, Stephen, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, but thanks indeed for that update on all the cases going on against big tech companies. We're going